Okay, Lyndon, you want to start?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully some people trickle in here as we get going, but welcome to the new year and the Stanislaus Green Team, our first one of the year. It's 1/21/21. Welcome, everybody. Happy New Year. My name is Lyndon Coffey. I'm with American Recycling, co-chair of the Stanislaus Green Team. We're very excited about 2021, the things that are going to come up, and Trish will touch on that a little bit later, I bet. What else? We appreciate you being here. We're up against, it's 10 after almost. So I guess I'll just kick it into our first and only speaker today. It's Anthony Presto, Air Quality Education Representative of the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. Anthony will be discussing a review of general air quality in the San Joaquin Valley, the tools available to the district on the district's website, and the millions of dollars available for businesses and residents and grants and incentives for changing out older, high polluting equipment and vehicles to new, cleaner technology. Please welcome my friend, Anthony Presto. I will remind you to mute. We had a Stanislaus, a San Joaquin Green Team meeting last week, and not everybody muted, and we could hear other conversations going on. So caution you to go ahead and mute. And then if you have a question, raise your hand, unmute, and we'll go from there. But thank you, Anthony. Take it away.
Thank you. And glad to be here today. So we're going to talk about air quality. It's been quite a while since we've been able to get together and do this. I'm going to go over some things that hopefully are new for those of you who haven't seen any of these presentations before. And in the San Joaquin Valley, we have quite a bit of an air quality issue, and it's really unique. It's unique to the San Joaquin Valley. First of all, giving you a little background, our air district is the largest air basin in California, and it's made up of 8 counties from San Joaquin down to Kern. And we have a governing board. I think our governing board is meeting as we speak or just finishing up. It's a 15-member board. There are county supervisors from each of the 8 counties, and then we have generally 5 city council members that rotate between small, medium, and large size cities throughout the San Joaquin Valley. And 2 of our members are not elected officials. Everyone else is. Those 2 that are not were appointed by the governor. One is a medical doctor who specializes in the effects of air pollution on the body, on things like asthma and allergies and things like that. And then we have a scientist that specializes in air pollution. Our key issues in the San Joaquin Valley with air pollution really come down to topography, meteorology, and geography. It's about where we are, and it's about how we have mountains that almost completely surround the valley and trap pollutants down at ground level. The weather tends to form inversion layers or high systems almost every day. And when that takes place, it's like a lid on a pot. Our valley is like a pot or a bowl, and then that inversion layer is like a lid on top of that. The satellite image really illustrates well how fog gets trapped there in the valley, and the same way pollutants get trapped down at ground level. So because the inversion layer tends to push all the pollutants down to ground level, they become highly concentrated, and it doesn't take long to reach unhealthy levels. So it's not so much that we create a great deal of air pollution, it's that air pollution has nowhere to go, especially when you compare us to other large metropolitan areas like the Los Angeles area, which is the South Coast Air Basin, creates 10 times more air pollution than we do here in the Valley. Their problem is only a little bit worse. And their particulate matter problem, their ozone problem is a little worse. Their particulate matter problem, not quite as bad. Areas like the Bay Area produce 6 times more air pollution than we do, and don't have as much of a problem as we do because they're not trapping their pollutants in. There's a great deal of wind that blows those pollutants around and creates what we call a good mix of air. And this is also a good illustration of how that inversion layer works at pushing everything back down as emissions, whether it be smoke, smog, other different types of pollutants naturally would rise up. That inversion layer pushes them back down to ground level where we're all breathing in those pollutants. And the reason it's such a big problem is because it's a direct impact to your health, to public health, in things like asthma, emphysema, chronic bronchitis. Particulate matter can even impact and increase the risk of strokes and heart attacks. So it's a really big issue. It's a top priority for our air to always research and seek all of the feasible strategies that we can, and adopt those strategies to reduce air pollution in any way possible. Now, a lot of people will call day to day thinking that, the buck stops here when it comes to air pollution. And that is not true in many cases, because we don't have regulatory authority over all different air pollutants. Just a moment. Excuse me. There are several entities when it comes to air pollution control. The Federal Environmental Protection Agency is really the umbrella over all of the different regulatory authorities, and that say on what needs to be done in many ways. They are the ones that actually set air quality standards, which in states and individual air districts have to do everything they can to meet. They also are the regulatory authority over mobile sources. Local air districts like ourselves do not have a regulatory authority over all the trucks and trains and cars and buses and boats, everything that moves. And that is the largest source of our air quality problems in the San Joaquin Valley. So we are charged with meeting federal air standards, yet we don't have to control all of those sources, and that is another huge dilemma and a huge challenge. The California Air Resources Board is at that state level doing a lot of the same thing, and they do have the authority to regulate those commercial products that come into our state, things like cars and trucks and paints and things. You have to meet this standard for air emissions to sell that product in California. And they also work very closely with us in implementing state implementation plans to meet federal standards, which we have to then submit to the Environmental Protection Agency. And then when it comes to things like land use and growth, those things fall on cities and counties. So the air district cannot regulate something like a drive-through service. It is that city that allows that to be built. And drive-throughs are one of the things that we do advise residents to try to avoid, because when you're doing that, you're idling. Just like we try to alert all the schools and parents, when you're picking up your kids from school, rather than waiting there idling the whole time up to a half hour at the worst part of the day, especially when it's warm, 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, when we're getting the most buildup of ozone pollution, to be idling, that we ask them, turn off your engine, park and turn off your engine, and maybe even get out of the car if it's too warm. You'll often find that it's cooler outside than it is inside when you're waiting to pick up the kids from school. So, those are among the things that, while we don't have the authority to actually create a rule, we do include in our messaging on a daily basis, every time we're talking to the community, to consider these things that affect them directly, because it affects public health. Ozone pollution is one of our main pollutants that we do not meet federal standards for. It's a corrosive gas that has to be formed. It's not directly emitted right out of a tailpipe, you might see particulate matter coming out of, the pipe of a truck. And that's not exactly what ozone is. Ozone is formed when nitrogen oxide, which comes from a tailpipe, is combined with volatile organic compounds, things like the fumes from paints and degreasers and unburned gasoline. Those things mix with NOx, and when they're baked by the sun, they form that totally different pollutant, which is worse than any of the individual. And it's mostly a summertime pollutant because ozone has to be formed by being cooked by the sun. So the longer the days are and the hotter the days are and the more stagnant, the more ozone will build up, and it disperses at nighttime. As I mentioned, mobile sources are the biggest source of our pollution in the San Joaquin Valley, and nitrogen oxide is very key in all of that. It's key in the formation of ozone, and it's also very important in the formation of fine particulate matter. You can see from this annual pie that diesel trucks tend to make the biggest of that source. Volatile organic compounds are the other side of ozone, and they're a little bit easier for us to get a handle on because they're not from a mobile source in most cases. I mean, the biggest sources of these are the animal feedlots, which have, the sources coming from the big waste lagoons, from piles of feed that ferment and emit volatile organic compounds, and directly from the animals themselves. Now, that being said, all those challenges, with all of the things that have been implemented, we're still meeting a great deal of progress in the San Joaquin Valley, with the year before last being, the best year so far on record. And we have 3 different deadlines and 3 federal standards that we are working to meet. Particulate matter is our other big pollutant issue that we're having an even harder time than ozone in trying to meet the federal standard for. We have a lot of mobile and stationary sources and a lot of different kinds of sources for particulate matter. And what it comes down to is particulate matter is generally in the form of smoke and dust. Dust tends to be the larger particle, PM10, which we do meet federal standards for. It's not as difficult of a pollutant to actually battle. Dust settles. We have the agricultural source creating dust during harvest time. That's only a short window in the year, and harvest over, and once we get our first rain, that dust tends to be knocked down. It's when we also have problems such as very dry periods, droughts, warm weather, and then a lot of wind coming through and creating windblown dust. That becomes another problem. Fine particulate matter, or PM 2.5, that's 2.5 microns and smaller, tends to come from smoke, remains aloft a lot longer. It's a much smarter particle. It gets deep into the lungs, into the bloodstream, and we have a lot of sources of that. In the wintertime, residential wood burning is our largest source, and that's why we do try to discourage people from burning wood in the San Joaquin Valley, because in most cases it's an unnecessary source of air pollution. When you look at annual pie chart of the different sources of fine particulate matter, looking at it on an annual basis, fireplaces and wood stoves don't seem like that big of an issue. But when you just look at it in the wintertime, it's about a third. But there are other different sources that we deal with throughout the year. Windblown dust, road dust, dust from construction. We do have some pretty stringent rules on construction sites in the valley to cut that down. We do have 2 different standards that we are working very hard to meet in the San Joaquin Valley. When it comes to fine particulate matter, we've made a great deal of progress on those. However, this past year, with the worst wildfires in history, at any time, as a matter of fact, taking a look at wildfires, a lot of our progress was really really challenged because this past year was more than twice as bad when it comes to emissions from wildfires and wildfires themselves, more than twice as bad as any year on record. One of the tools that is really important for residents to take care of to take into their own hands and use themselves, because they actually have a certain amount of control when it comes to protecting themselves from air pollution. Obviously, when it's unhealthy outside, you want to stay indoors in an air-conditioned, filtered environment. We spent the entire summer telling folks that that's what they should be doing. There is a really useful tool called the Real-Time Air Advisory Network, or RAN, that is available to residents throughout the valley anytime, day or night, updated every hour to give you air quality in real time anywhere in the valley, because we have monitoring stations that actually measure PM 2.5 and ozone all over the San Joaquin Valley. So that's at myran.com. Another way that you can look at that air quality is by using the app, which will give you the same information RAN does. And whether you're using RAN or the app, we provide folks with the real-time outdoor activity risk guidelines of levels 1 through 5 that gives you an explanation and guidelines on safety for being outdoors in regard to how long you're outdoors and the level of air pollution that is that is taking place outside. Where we cannot regulate, what we try to do is provide grants and incentives so that residents, businesses, public agencies can use cleaner alternatives on their own. And this would allow businesses to change out trucks, farmers to change out tractors, residents to change out and replace cars with cleaner technology faster than they normally would. And that's what we really need, because we're talking a lot about mobile sources here and trying to replace a gasoline car with an electric car, because now that's very practical, now that's very affordable. And taking a look at some of those things, yard care equipment. Hopefully some of you have heard of the Clean Green Yard Machines program before, that the Valley Air District has been conducting since, I believe, 2001. And that was just designed originally to trade out your gas mower and get an electric mower. And now it's gone far beyond that. It used to be just for residents. Now it's commercial landscapers have a program as well. It's not just lawn mowers, it's riding mowers and trimmers and chainsaws and pole saws, just about everything that you can use for yard care equipment to replace the gasoline with electric, or even for commercial landscapers, some cases replacing diesel with electric. So you're completely eliminating those emissions. It's a great program that has a significant grant incentive to help residents and businesses make that change. And when it comes to changing out cars for businesses as well as residents, we have the Drive Clean and the San Joaquin program. We're really serious about residents getting electric vehicles, and that's why we provide a $3,000 grant. If you go buy a new electric car, we're just going to give you that $3,000, and the state has a grant on top of that. So I think right now you can get as much as $4,500 back immediately, or within 60 days, when you go and buy an electric car. And then you can replace, and geared toward residents maybe in the more disadvantaged areas that might obviously be able to afford to buy a brand new car. Maybe they have an old high polluting vehicle. As part of our Replace program, they can go and get an emissions test. It's part of the Tune In and Tune Up program for free. And if that car fails the test, they can have it repaired. But if it's a 99 or older, they could just go into getting as much as $9,500 to replace it with not a brand new, but a newer, cleaner car, at least a hybrid. And what we're really shooting for is for them going all the way to get the full $9,500 for a used electric car. And those are popping out a lot. And as we see a lot of lease returns on electric vehicles, because when you buy these cars, and a lot of people are leasing them instead of buying them, because the improvements take place so rapidly on these cars. So after 3 years, folks want to just replace it with one that they can get a much better range for. And so those cars are going car lots that are our partners in the Replace program, and these folks in disadvantaged communities can take advantage of that and be driving electric cars, in many cases completely paid for by this program. Now, what good is an electric car without any place to charge it? Well, you can charge it. Really the most convenient thing to do. It's what I do almost all the time. We do need an electric vehicle charging infrastructure in the San Joaquin Valley, and that's why the Charge Up program is also really important. And it will pay, in many cases, for the entire cost of putting in a charging station, whether it's at your business for the employees or for the customers, or at your public agency, at your office. In many cases, we want these available so that as many people as possible can use them. At large retail outlets, at places where there was recently a large manufacturer in Modesto said, well, we don't have a place for the public to even be able to park. We want it for our employees. So, that was a few years ago. We changed the program to allow it to not just be open for public use, but for employee use, so that those employees parking there, even though there's nowhere for the public to go, the employees can take advantage of it. So, $5,000 just for a single charging station, when they don't cost that much. The cost is really about the construction it takes to put it in. So if you put that charging station right next to your electrical hub, you probably are not going any additional costs after that grant takes place. The other one for homes is burn cleaner. As we're trying to steer people away from burning wood, you want them to go to natural gas. In most of the counties, we have the ability to give you $1,000 to go from an open fireplace or an older wood stove to a new EPA certified wood or pellet stove, but up to $1,500 if you go to a natural gas insert instead. And now that's the cleanest, most efficient way to heat your home is with a natural gas insert. And where cost is a concern, the thing to realize, and many people I've spoken to who have taken advantage of this and gotten a natural gas insert, they love it. And it uses less natural gas than your whole house heater does, which means it's not going to cost as much as using your HVAC system for your heating as it would for your insert. And maybe just that 1/3 bedroom in the back that you don't use much as the door you can close, that it doesn't quite reach, but the main living area, it gets nice and toasty warm, just as good as a good pellet stove would heat it. Now we have 3 hotspot counties in the valley. Those are the counties that we have the hardest time trying to meet this federal standard for particulate matter pollution, and those are Madera, Fresno, and Kern counties. We don't have that option for them to go to a cleaner wood device, only to natural gas. Because of that, they also get a much bigger incentive of up to $3,000 regardless. In the other counties, you could get up to $3,000 if you meet low income standards. Otherwise, it's up to $1,500. That's pretty much it. We've got incentives to replace trucks and tractors as well. We've done a lot with replacing locomotives, which is a huge bang when you're talking about air quality to super clean locomotives. But all of these things make a really big impact, and the district continues to seek funding, keep going with millions of dollars available for businesses and residents in the valley. So any questions? All 5 of you.
All right, now is the time to unmute and ask a question. If you can, Cindy, John, Trish, Jolene, Lyndon, any questions?
I don't have any questions. This is John, but I wanted to thank you for the wonderful information. Actually, it was very constructive.
Fantastic.
John, can you introduce yourself? Who are you with?
I'm John Baladeras with Neptune Water Solutions. We're a local water purification system unit company.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, John. Did want to, last thing, encourage everybody to follow us on social media, share some of the messages that we have going, friend us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and we have a lot of messages that we feel are really important for your organizations to help us get the word out on. One other thing is a law called AB 617, which is geared at bringing more resources to clean the air for those disadvantaged, hardest hit communities throughout the San Joaquin Valley. Is something taking place in 3 of our major areas in the valley right now: Stockton, South Central Fresno, and Shafter are the areas that AB 16 has steering committees for and are developing and have already adopted some emission reductions plans for their communities to bring more of those resources. They're doing things like putting filtering systems in the schools, paying more attention to truck routes, trying to get these trucks rerouted so they're not driving through right in front of their neighborhoods, emitting all of those fumes, doing more urban greening and green fencing and that types of things, and those types of things. There's likely going to be more of these communities added, but they do meet virtually by Zoom and on Facebook Live every month. You're invited to take part in those and see where you might be able to add your comments.
Thank you. Chuck, you had unmuted. Did you have a question, and could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi, this is Jeff Pike with Blue Diamond Growers. Thanks, Anthony, for the presentation. There's always more to learn about the air regulations. I think I'm on top of it. And then something else pops up that I wasn't totally aware of. But we are interested in putting in some charging stations at our facilities in Modesto and Turlock. Was that program, did I hear that was just for in-home installations?
No, absolutely not. It's actually especially for you. We would love to see some charging stations out in front of your facilities. When it comes to the charging stations, we don't have that for residential use, but a lot of the different power companies, like I think MID has that, where they provide you some funding if you put a charging station in your home. So a charge up is, exactly for the type of use that you're talking about. In addition, being in the nut growing industry, one of the things that I forgot to mention, because I always forget something, because there's just so much, and you probably already know about this. And we want all of the growers who grow walnuts and almonds to know about the low dust harvesters that are out there, and that the Air District has funding to help growers replace or somehow be able to fund using those lower dust harvesting equipment, because during that time of the year, that is one of the things that we get a lot of complaints about. It is an issue for residents, and it's one of the things that we've been working closely with the farming community to try to improve.
Okay, and you mentioned AB 617. What do you know about AB 802? Is that just for commercial warehouse buildings, or?
I'm afraid I couldn't speak about anything on
Okay.
AB 802. Sorry about that. And
No,
I've got
that's all
something to
right.
research.
I don't think it applies to us, but I keep getting stuff in the mail saying, you know, you need to report. But I don't think it applies to us, but I'll look into that a little bit further. But yeah, I'll definitely follow up on the EV charging because I know both of our facilities in San Joaquin want to put some in.
Please do, please do. And just go to valleyair.org and go to the grants section for businesses and you'll see charge up.
Anthony, do you have any suggestion on where he could get information on the AB 802 that he asked about?
You know, I would really just, I myself, when I leave this meeting, I'm going to go on the internet and look up AB 802 because I'm not familiar with it.
Jolene, would you make a note? Let's send an email off to Judy Notley and connect her with Jeff. Also, I suspect she can get information on that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Cindy,
you.
Thank you. Cindy, would you like to unmute and introduce yourself?
I will stop sharing.
Still there?
Sorry, it
That's
wouldn't
okay.
unmute there for a minute. I'm Cindy Woodruff and I'm operations coordinator here in Turlock, California. And work with Jeff quite often. He's out of our corporate office. So he's kind of like our advisor here for our sustainability committee.
Also with Blue
So,
Diamond.
Yeah, also with Blue Diamond. And we do, or I help with the green team here in Turlock.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Jolene, could you introduce yourself?
My name is Jolene. I'm here from the Modesto Chamber of Commerce's California Green Business Network of Stanislaus.
Thank you. And I'm Trish Christensen. I'm the president and CEO of the Modesto Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to steal the spotlight for a minute, Lyndon. And
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to turn it over to you anyway.
All right, share a couple updates. Jolene mentioned the California Green Business Network. We're super excited to have Jeff on the line with us today. Blue Diamond was our very first official green certification, but we're happy to announce that we've now certified 4 and have 4 additional in motion or pending. Jolene is our rock star coordinator for that. We had Audi Modesto jump on yesterday and they were 95% through their checklist by the end of the day yesterday. So
Great.
we're rocking that. And Jeff, American Chevrolet has charging stations that are out near their sidewalk, out north end of McHenry. And it's for employees, but also for anyone that stops by can charge for a little bit. At least that's how they were doing it last year. So it would be an example for you to see how they set them out. So it's not just for their crew, but it's also for others that just need a place to stop and charge for a bit.
Well, yeah, we have them in Sacramento, but now the other plants want them too because we have people commuting. And I want to get some electric vehicles for those commuting fleet that we have. So yeah, that's something we'll definitely take advantage of. And Cindy, we're working through the checklist as well for the Turlock facility. So we should be able to submit that, I would say, here in the next, end of the first quarter.
Awesome. That's exciting. I'll say on our hit list, when COVID lifts a little bit, we'll get out to the 4 that we have certified and do a small scale green ribbon cutting, but we are targeting sometime mid to late summer, preferably before harvest starts for people like Blue Diamond. We will do some sort of an event, a luncheon or something where we publicly acknowledge and present certificates to all the businesses that we've certified so far this year. So know those are coming. We've not forgotten about you. COVID just kind of keeps messing up our ability to celebrate the way we want to. Same with new members in general. So things we're going to be working towards as soon as we're able to.
That'd be great.
Yeah, the plant was asking about that, so I'll let them know. But yeah, we should talk in advance and, so we can do some things on our end to prepare for that.
You'll be the first one we do. And so whenever we do yours, we'll then try and line the rest up if it's safe to do so. So I'm going to take that cue from you and, your food industry around COVID. So you give us an indication when you're ready. It wouldn't take us but a week or 2 to line it up, preferably 2 so we can do some promotion. But with this light lifting that we expect to happen transitionally, we won't do a public invite blast like we would have done for other ribbon cuttings. We'll keep it small scale and share the
Okay.
video. So we're ready.
Yeah, I guess what I need is some more details about that.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe we can just talk offline and then I can relay that information to our folks. We'll
Happy
see,
to.
because they wanted to do some, some photos, maybe a banner or something like that.
Yep, happy to work on that. So in the chat box, Anthony has put a couple links in there. They're for you, Jeff, more particularly you and Cindy.
Okay, good.
So Jolene, could you give us an idea who our speaker will be next month, please?
Next month, we will be having John from Neptune Water Solutions, which he is here to join us. They'll be in discussion of eliminating exposure to bacteria, viruses in drinking water. They offer touchless and Bluetooth water dispensers that have a 5-stage water purification, which is the safest and healthiest way that you can drink water from intake.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool.
Back to you, Lyndon.
Well, is anybody, before we wrap it up, does anybody have any comments or statements to make regarding anything going on in their business or anything going on in the community? Normally, this is when we hand it over to Anthony, but since he's talked about, unless there's
I'm all
anything,
talked out, finally.
are you tapped out? I mean, is there anything additional? You can add it now, but we usually open it up to the forum if anybody wants to say anything before we wrap it up.
I'll add some after everyone else has had a chance.
Okay.
I'd just like to share that from our perspective, and I'm sorry I'm offline. My video is off. But as far as our industry, we have seen a tremendous growth in the need for our product or the desirability of our product. Bottled water has always been an issue, regardless of people knowing that or not. But now people are paying attention to having safer alternatives. And never had the pleasure to meet Geoff or Cindy, but you are aware that we have you as a customer, right? in your Modesto location.
Oh, good.
I believe, yeah, I think so. I'm based out of Sacramento, but yeah.
Oh,
I was
okay,
aware of
so-
that. I've talked to Neil and Anthony, so I know you're there.
Okay. I just thought I'd introduce myself, let you know, because I wasn't sure. I only speak to Neil for the most part. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to announce that after the certification with Blue Diamond, one of the Modesto location gentleman, Dennis Betancourt, has come on the Modesto Chamber Board, started 2 weeks ago. So we're happy to be building on our partnership and relationship with Blue Diamond. It's exciting going forward. So really happy to have you on board.
Very cool.
Yeah, Trish, I wanted to talk to you. He called me about a water committee that came up at a previous meeting. So I wanted to get some more information from you on that.
Okay, so I'll just touch on that. I can't verbally give you a big summary of that right now, other than to say the Chamber had a water committee several years ago when there was a lot of initiatives that needed addressing. They are bringing that back online now to address water in general in our region and community. So we're looking for people that want to participate, Chamber members that want to join. They will meet potentially every 2 to 3 months, depending on need based on what is in motion around us. So I can definitely connect you with the right people on that. On the horizon with the Chamber, we have developed several new programs that we are launching. Several have come online over the last 3 months of 2020 and going into 2021. We've come up with a couple more. We're really excited about all of these new programs and initiatives. We've launched a Women in Business Network, which meets all of these are monthly recurring. We have a Tech Connect, which really focuses on people either in tech, have tech services, or business utilizing tech or learning to utilize it different that want to gain information. We have a Rising Leaders network that we've started, which will build out into some internship and mentoring opportunities, leadership training. We've launched in partnership with Leadership Modesto, who's sort of suspended right now. Kate Trumpeter's come on board as a leadership coach, and we're going to be doing a monthly leadership series that we're really excited about. And we've brought Business U back online, which would be an opportunity for any of our Chamber members that want to share a niche of what they do to make a difference in business within theirs that others might learn from. We'll touch on HR, we're touching on some leadership in the workplace, where we will touch on marketing, a mix of things. Those will all be different. They're also monthly. And our regular Economic Development Committee and Government Relations Council are up and running. And we're building a pipeline of speakers for Green Team right now. We'll keep these going as well. So it is a happening place these days. So we're happy to have you share those out. You get most of the registration links from our e-blast. So if you're not getting those, let us know. We'd be happy to add you and share those anytime. It's open to anyone, chamber member or not. We just like to build the base of sharing information and knowledge and helpful tips, hopefully, along the way. So that's it for me. I'm happy to have you guys here today. I'm going to stop recording. Give me just 1 second here.